And a very good morning to you from Lewis in East Sussex. And here we are back on a morning that is not going to be quite as nice as some mornings have been in the past. It's a drizzle, although looking out at my favourite spot to get the weather, the drizzle hasn't really started yet. It's going to be a mild breeze. My good standby is the trees who tell me that the breeze hasn't started yet. And it's going to be cool. It's not going to reach much more than about 8 degrees, and right now it's about zero. So there you are. That's the day outside. Make sure that you're ready for it. And when you go out, just wrap up because we never know. Oh, sorry, little notes pop up from time to time, and they disturb me because they are things of importance, and therefore I need to read them. But reading them and talking to you is sometimes not exactly the easiest thing to do. So I'll keep talking, and I just very quickly took a look at that, and it's not really something that we need to worry about. Right, okay. Now, I've been very angry at the beginning of this week, and I don't suppose that my anger is disappearing much because I'm absolutely appalled at the way just about all of us are actually behaving. And I mean, the feeding frenzy to get rid of Boris is just quite remarkable. I mean, it may well be that it's the best thing to do. I don't know. I really am trying very hard to make up my mind where we stand. The one thing I do know is that, and I quoted this fable to a friend of mine yesterday in a totally different context. The Aesop fable is be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it realized. And we get rid of Boris, and who are we going to have? Now, there are four major stories, I suppose, this morning. If you want it to be a major story, and this just shows how nonsensical we become as a nation, because it's reflected in one of our newspapers. And look, I've been having a go at my own sector, my own profession, if you like, the last couple of days, because I've wondered what the hell is going on with them. But since it is a feeding frenzy, and I'm not knocking our press, generally speaking, we've got a pretty damn good one, and the most that we can really say, well, not the most, but what we can say with some pride, is that at least we're independent. We most certainly are. But if you go to some countries in the EU still, such as Romania, it's very dicey being in the media there. And journalists are still being thrown into the jug, or were until very recently. So it is one of those things that we really have to worry about, is why the media have joined in this feeding frenzy of get rid of the Prime Minister. I understand why people want to. I understand the question marks. I understand his weaknesses. But my view is that changing a horse in the middle of a race, when the outsider, if you like, the Russian bear, is poised to move into a friendly state, and we are saying that we'll help defend that friendly state. It seems to me to be remarkable, absolutely remarkable. But the latest evidence is, and this is what makes me wonder, is that there's a photograph of Boris near, and actually if you look at the photograph, he's not really quite near to it, to an open bottle of champagne and a half-eaten bag of crisps. Some party, cheap buggers. Even I wouldn't throw a party where I was only going to provide one bottle of champagne and one packet of crisps. It reminds me of some stage in the past, particularly during the Troubles. I think it was Pope John Paul flew to the United States, and the plane took off from Rome and set off on the Great Circle route. And one of the headlines in a local paper in Northern Ireland was "Pope flies over Ulster." It was a great impact. And this is just about the same to me. Is Boris is near to a bottle of champagne and a packet of crisps. New photograph reveals new evidence. I mean, really, how daft can we get? How daft can we get? This is sheer madness. But the other two items, really, and I just mentioned the one. And the Defence Secretary was on one of our rivals, the BBC, one of our rivals. It was on the BBC and outlining the situation. And basically, he said, well, we've got a lot of troops there in the first place. For instance, an example is that when the Poles were threatened sometime in the past, we actually lined up our troops on the Polish borders to show that we were supportive, and it avoided an invasion of Poland. I'm not talking about the Second World War, of course. But we do have troops, and apparently we are willing to line them up on the borders and show Mr. Putin that we are prepared to go to war if necessary, along with other allies who are saying the same thing. Of course, Emmanuel Macron leading the... there are lots of idiot leaders in the world at the moment, and it's very sad that there are. But of course, leadership really should show us the way forward. Doesn't matter whether the guy has got a vacant brain, but Macron seems to make a fool of himself every time that he opens up his mouth. And he went to boasting that he got a master plan, and that Vladimir would be taking his troops back to Moscow. Don't worry about it, chaps, I've solved it all, and was sent packing with his tail between his legs. And with Boris saying, no, sorry, not Boris, Vladimir saying, no, sir, we are not going to do what you ask. That, to me, is the very key story, the very key concern that we should have as a people, and that's what we should be concentrating on. And anything we do to damage our own status at home, and our own standing, and our own leadership capability, just feeds to the enemy the sort of propaganda that he wants. They're not ready. Look at them. Look at the silly buggers. Well, we're behaving like that. I mean, if I was Vladimir, I would actually just simply send one man over the border, a non-combatant, in other words, not a soldier, and I would have him wave a bottle of half champagne and a half-eaten bag of crisps and say to the Ukrainians, these are your friends, why not turn to your enemies? And let us not be deceived. Yes, Ukraine, generally speaking, is an independent state, and it should stay an independent state. But where President Putin is massing his troops is in an area that I've worked in and I've lived in, and they are very sympathetic to the Russian way of life, because the cumbersome EU open market policy put thousands and thousands and thousands of them out of work. And they hadn't really any sort of compensation, a proper compensation package in place. So a lot of people were very, very poor. The market on a Saturday morning in Lugansk, which is the city that I was in, was very interesting, because the farmers would come in and try to sell kittens, newly born kittens, because they needed the money to feed themselves. There were a lot of very, very nice people striving very hard to make sense of it. But the governor had managed to get involved in with some EU official, so they were experimenting with flax, the little yellow flowers that you see on our own fields, and this was going to save the economy of the Donbass area. Ha ha ha! That's all whoop-de-doo. So it is not a particularly stable civil society in that part of the world. The EU and ourselves, of course, we were part of the EU when Ukraine became a member, and the EU actually didn't pay enough attention to the citizens in the eastern part of Ukraine, and I am quite sure, in my own mind, that is helping feed Vladimir Putin, President Putin's desire to slip over the border there. They already did some incursions. There is some. Well, we know now for a fact that the rocket that brought down the Malaysian airliner was fired from Lugansk, which is only 12 miles from the Russian, from the border with the Russian Federation. It is an area where the civil population may not be quite as anti-Russian as the western part around Kiev. So that's something to be taken into consideration, and we should have been worrying about this weeks ago, instead of worrying about iced cake at Christmas. And now a half bottle of champagne, or an open bottle of champagne, and a packet of crisps. Whew, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I have to say that I am full of vim and vigour about not only our own government, because governance is lacking. I was talking to somebody else who has something to do with government the other day, and they said that this is the worst government for decision making and so on that they've ever come across. So what we're looking for is leadership, but I can't see who would be a better leader than Boris, and perhaps he might turn out to be Churchill. That when the chips are down, and when it becomes a hostile, a military situation, is that what then happens is that his leadership qualities come out. He hasn't shown them domestically. He's decided that life is one big party. I totally accept that. But I look at the people that he's brought around him, and they're in his mould. So if we're going to switch horses, I think that we're actually going to be in a very much more weakened state. Right, well, that's my opinion, right? But once again, the opinions that may not be very popular. They may stick in your craw. They'll certainly probably stick in the craw of those people at Westminster. But the fact of the matter is that my opinions are based on certainly personal knowledge, lived there, been there, done that. The whole idea of ridicule, of iced cakes, and so on. Yes, the principle is right, and the way that once again it's been handled is ham-handed. There's an inquiry, a formal inquiry, the results of which have been not tampered with, but not fully disclosed. Then Cressida Dick, who somehow clings on to being the chief of police at Met, the chief constable of the metropolitan area of Scotland Yard, she decides that she'll have an investigation on top of all the other discredited investigations that she's managed to introduce. It really does make me wonder. I'm delighted to say that I am not alone anymore, that my good friend Andrew is here from Grizzlies. So we'll say hello to Andrew, and I'll calm down from the half bottle, or no, it's not a half bottle, it is a bottle of champagne out of which something has been drunk, and a half-eaten package of crisps. Good morning. I'm in good flow this morning. How are you, Andrew?
I'm all right, Keith. Yeah, you okay?
Yes, and not too bad at all. I'm in full flow here, going after just about everybody who comes into my sites. You know what
Good.
I'm like.
Yeah, good.
Now let's put this in perspective. People are yelling at Boris because a photograph has been taken of an open bottle of champagne and a half open package of crisps. Now, there is a video which we show regularly of Andrew's wonderful hairdressers, and if you haven't been, you've got to go. You really have. I mean, it's Winter Wonderland. It's fantastic. Not only a whole host of his staff, who are just delightful people, and I've always got a wonderful smile on their face, and you can joke and you can josh. But there is a little clip of me sitting with my girlfriend, sipping on a coffee which has been laced with Jack Daniels. Now, it could easily be said that, my goodness me, because of that photograph or that clip, is Keith's drinking coffee with Jack Daniels in it all day. And there is no evidence to suggest whatsoever Oh dear. No, I'm sorry. A little thing just flashed up there. Not appropriate to us. You see, it's very easy to call a kettle black if, in fact, you take spurious evidence like somebody was standing near the kitchen sink. Okay. Now, right. Andrew, I'm sorry for you coming while I'm feeling very feisty this morning and really ready to take on everything. And I know that actually you are always the voice of reason. I think the first thing that I'm going to ask you about is the fact that this affects everybody. That the Prime Minister has now said he's going to dump all COVID restrictions, I think in about a week's time. How do you feel about that? Too soon? Too late? Not enough? What's your reaction?
I'm completely chuffed because I think people's confidence and listening to other interviews and podcasts and things like that with other scientists, researchers, virologists, there's all sorts of different information I'm hearing all the time about. For a long time, the levels have been low, the cases are low, the hospitalizations, the illnesses, the deaths, etc. And the fact that a line's going to be sort of drawn under it now is great because people's confidence as far as getting back and connecting with people. I just don't think we could sort of go on any longer, really. Mentally, I just think it will just destroy people, and it will destroy the economy. And we just need to get community and connection back together, and and try and sort of get some sort of our mental health back on track.
Now, there are always those people who, when we've got lockdown, say, we should lift it, there's no reason for it. And then when it's all lifted, say, are you sure that we should do that? From your clients, your customers in the barber's chair, what sort of feeling have people had about the cessation, if you like, of COVID restrictions?
It's quite mixed, actually. I'm always quite surprised. There's always a couple of clients who still are quite fearful, and we start talking to them and asking them why the reasons, and it's like they've just been constantly watching a certain news source, one news source, and just listening to the fear, really. So it's where you try and sort of say, well, haven't you read about, so-and-so's report, or this I was listening to say about from a virologist, and they're like, I didn't hear that. And you don't generally hear that on mainstream media, on BBC, Radio 6 News, or ITV or whatever. So it's quite mixed. Most people, I would say nearly everybody, 99%, want it all gone, want it to move on with their lives. They're worried about their mental health. So it's not, mental health gets bandied around quite a lot. And you sort of sometimes think it's a bit snowflakey or a bit, But generally, people, I think, are worried about their mental health. And they've missed holidays, they've missed seeing family. A lot of people have said they haven't seen family members for 2-3 years. I've got some clients who have children in Australia. I've got a client who's from New Zealand and his family, and another client whose mum passed away in Australia and haven't got to go over. And so you just think, good God, people just want 2 years is a long time. And if you think before that as well, we had Brexit and Trump. So since 2016, and Victoria Wood died, who was my idol. So since 2016, it's been a weird few years. Trump, the Brexit, the polarization of people. And this on top of it, and then unfortunately, our family had a bit of a traumatic time of it as well, an illness and stuff. So it's been a rough few years. So now the evenings are getting lighter. Everyone's responding to that, which is lovely. But it's been mild and it's been quite sunny most of the time. It's people are like just hanging on to the bit to get through to March. because we can move the clocks forward, the evenings are getting lighter, the COVID things are just becoming less, and hopefully we can move into spring, summer, and people can recharge again. But then in the back of their minds, a lot of people are worried about the winter and sort of saying, well, you know, we would have a nice summer, and then there might be another variant in the winter, you want to go. Don't enough of this, you know, enough. We can't go through this again. You know,
there are some forecasts that the middle of next week is going to get very cold again, and that some snow could even reach the south coast.
Well, it's normally about the third week in February, isn't it? We have snow. I remember that because in the 80s, 1986, February 1986, there was a massive snowstorm, and I'd gone to see a concert. We were all snowed in on the coast. So I always think in the back of my head, for some reason, end of February, we always have snow, don't we? So, you know, we're almost there. It's like, even though it's sort of the end of January, beginning of February, and it's been mild and sunny, it's felt quite spring-like, isn't it?
Yes.
And everything in their way of being quite spring in their step, as it were.
Yes. And I've noticed a spring in the step of people a little bit. There is that buoyant feeling. Is that reflecting in your business? Is business increasing now? I mean, I know it has been steadily recently. Is that continuing?
Yeah, it's funny because we sort of say, because in that December when everybody has that fear of, and everyone's cancelling parties and because they're paranoid about Christmas, and that's when we took a complete lull and everyone cancelled, and it was really worrying again. And then once that sort of passed, we had a really busy Christmas week, and then that spread on to January. And the January is normally the quiet month, but January, me and Ollie were both fully booked every day. It was crazy. And then last week, it sort of got a bit quiet Wednesday, Thursday, so which is the normal quiet-ish time in January. So it's like everything shifted. All the regular patterns have now shifted because of COVID,
Right.
people's working patterns and life patterns and stuff. And then as soon as there's any fear on the news, that makes a massive impact on business. So, and then that's pushed everyone's need for a haircut, you know. But this week is sort of crazy. And there's been lots of new customers and lots of restyles that people want to change. That people sort of haven't really bothered, and now they sort of, you know, there's some really lovely people that have read about the
I'm a client. How would you change that?
You haven't been in for 2 weeks, have you? Yeah.
Apart from perhaps gluing a toupee on.
Oh yes, you do that. You start getting a wig for you. That changes.
I will tell you something interesting from my past. I mean, generally speaking, and it doesn't really matter, but when I was in Northern Ireland, I was responsible for starting a program called A Taste of Honey, Hunni. So you would guess who the presenter was, and it was very, very, very popular. But we used to bring in a hairdresser once a week, and they called me Old Baldy even then, even though I'd got something ahead of hair. He would say what he would do with it and so on. But on one occasion he said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to actually put a wig on you, a toupee, and see the difference in people, which he did. And I actually got into the lift with the controller, who knew me very well, and he looked at me, and it was a long time before it clicked that he was looking at me. The appearance changed so much simply by the addition of hair. No, nothing else, just the addition of hair.
Yeah,
it's amazing the change that it can make. Yeah.
I did a play once called What a Performance, which was about the comedian Sid Field, who's around in the 40s. And David Suchet played him, and you know he's got sort of no hair, and he had to have like a hairpiece with like a black side parting, and the difference it sort of made in him walking around and stuff. It was really interesting, you know. It can obviously haircuts and hairstyles can really change. It changes not only the look of how people respond to you, it responds how you feel. So be confident, because if you have a naff haircut or you're not happy with it or whatever, it can just make you feel really not good. But if you have a nice haircut and a nice experience, you therefore feel more confident. Other people then respond to you. It's a yin-yang sense. It's very bright, you know. But it's true, you know. So it's interesting how people are going for a slight restyle at the moment. it's like want to keep it slightly longer, or they're actually just had it messy and not bothered for a couple of years, like a client yesterday, who just wants a bit more. And they always show certain photos of certain sort of film stars, which is cute because it's people like Chris Hemsworth and Johnny Depp, so it's people who are stereotypically quite male, attractive, alpha, but quite smart. So it's quite nice to sort of go, yep, we can do that, and sculpt you round and give them a bit of confidence. Sometimes I do say to them, if they're not sort of entirely sure what they want, should I just cut your hair like I think you should have it look like, really? And they go, yeah, go on then. And it's really nice because we've got a few clients who necessarily wouldn't be as confident in other barber shops, shall we say. I think they're slightly quieter people, slightly more aware, not that confident socially. And it's great because they've been coming to us for a couple of years, and you can see the difference. And it's really nice to give them like a trendy haircut, which they wouldn't probably not necessarily ask for somewhere. But it's good to enhance what they look like naturally. And then as they walk out, you think, God, they look great, and just to see their slight rise in their confidence, how they hold themselves, they look a bit, trendy. And they wouldn't
I have to tell you,
gone.
folks, that Andrew is the only barber I've ever known who could give me a haircut without me having to take my hat off.
Hey!
Where's my girl? Is she out? Is she there?
Can you not see her?
Oh, there she is. Yeah, very docile, very quiet. Yes. Good morning, Bella. So she can hear the voice, but she says, I don't see him, and the biscuits aren't there.
Yeah, you see, this is it, you see. It's a bit,
isn't she gorgeous? Just lovely.
Hello.
That's my girlfriend. God bless her. She's got something else in mind.
Yeah.
Right, Andrew, let's keep going then, because what's your feeling? And I like to get your reaction, because you get sometimes we don't think alike at all, and sometimes we think very very alike. But what's your feeling about this? Now the Prime Minister is among 50 to be questioned by the police over the goings on during lockdown. Now, to me, we have murders, we have crime on the increase, etc., etc., and that they should once again focus on this sort of thing. I'm not saying it shouldn't take place, but that we should focus on it at this particular time bothers me enormously. Does it bother you?
That's interesting you say that, because I think the law is the law. That's regardless of who you are and what you are. But a lot of crimes that happen and people report, so it might be classified as low-level crime, criminal damage, assault, etc. But there's a list of priorities. Because Theresa May cut 25,000 officers in 2014, which Boris has promised to get back to, and there's no way, they're not even half that at the moment. But they've been cutting the police officers. So obviously the police have to prioritise what's in order of importance, really, with crime severity, threat of life, threat of life, whatever. So they are investigating, but it's a different team. It's not on the floor, obviously, PC, constables. It's detectives, inspectors, CID. It's people who are further up who would inspect stuff at other crimes. So, and obviously it's quite an important case, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because these laws were brought in for safety and of everybody, and they sort of seem to flunk the laws, weren't they? So, but it's a different thing. This is the other thing. That if all these parties were going on at the beginning during lockdown, and I can remember that feeling, and it was very much you just sort of got on with it, really. You did what you were told, in a sense. I didn't see anyone, didn't see family. My dad had dementia at home and things like this, and you just stayed in. I cooked, I took the dog for a walk, and did that stuff. So, as that was going on, were they flunking the laws just to say we're above it, we do what we want anyway, or did they not believe in the laws and the restrictions, or something else. So that's very different things, isn't it? To flunk the law and go, we just do what we want anyway, which is what the media's sort of pushing out, really. Or did they not believe / what's the word about all the restrictions? You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Like, were the restrictions that important, or that's why they were still having parties? Because they were prior to other information. I don't know. I don't think that. It's another thought, isn't it? It's a very different thing. There's two very different. So the flunk the laws because they're arrogant, or that the laws weren't necessarily. It was just advice from the scientists in a sense, because they're scientists. They're not there about economy, are they? They're about to say, to stop life. This is how virus transfer to everybody. I don't know. So, but I think they should be investigated. And what I'm shocked about is if all of a sudden there was, something happened to the government, like when the bombings happened at the Grand in Brighton or something, and all of government were wiped out in a sense, there would be formed an emergency government, wouldn't there? Somebody would come in and have to form an emergency government. So as they've all been, there's so many Tory MPs and staff that have been there, in theory it should be fine and prosecuted. Why? It's like a normal disciplinary action, like a normal job, really. And then other ministers could be brought in. I don't know. I know that's it.
Yeah. You froze a bit there, but we got the message all right. It's all right, you're back to normal now. I sometimes am a very simple man, and I suppose what I think is the whole prosecution of wrongdoers for COVID can be done at any time. Whereas if a woman, a mother is grieving because her son was knifed to death last night because of rampant street crime, I'm not going to be very sympathetic to the fact that the police weren't there because they were knocking on the doors of Westminster. So I'm not saying that I'm right or you're right, whatever. What I do think is that there is far more debate needed about where our police forces should be going, because it's easy. I'm an old fart. It's easy for me to say, aha, in the days when the coppers were on the beat, it was all right. And you hear a lot of people say that, and the police forces anywhere in the country don't respond by saying, no, we're going to put more coppers on the beat. What they do is they have all sorts of other, this is what we're doing as far as electronic surveillance is concerned and so on. Actually, the most sensible thing I've heard so far is that I forget which police force it is, are going to launch a series of drones. So, anybody lurking in the streets with evil intent can be seen from the heavens.
Well, this is the other thing, isn't it? So this is a part of the bigger picture, with data, all that stuff, and people being lives being watched and stuff. But that's taking away, like I always say. So you're taking police officers off the street, which having physical presence of police has a direct impact on lower crime. So taking police officers off the street and saying, well, it's CCTV, it's like when people are on Big Brother or whatever, isn't it? You might be aware, or in the TV studio, you might be aware that you are on camera a certain amount of time. Then all of a sudden, that disappears. So CCTV, and police will tell you that. CCTV really is just used as evidence. That's it. That's the only tool. So it's false economy to take officers off the street, I believe. And also, the police investigating the government thing is alongside other stuff as well. They're not doing other crimes and just concentrating on this, like the sort of the mainstream media is leading you to believe. That's happening simultaneously, side by side. So they're still investigating, but obviously there's a lack of officers on the street, which then if there's lack of officers like there have been since 2014, those officers then aren't upgrading to being sergeants, they're not upgrading them to being detectives or to CID investigation. So it's like everything. If you're not getting people on the ground level coming in and then moving up, you're going to have less resources. We need more ability. You can see it when there's protests for football matches or any public order.
Yes, we've lost you again.
Officers, obviously to maintain.
Yeah.
So,
right, let's just take a pause for breath, shall we? And we'll let's just because believe it or not, when you're having fun, it is 8:36, and we started bang on 8 o'clock this morning. So we've been at it for 36 minutes. Let's give people a break and ourselves, hopefully. I'm fumble fingers this morning. Right. Now, there we are. We're all back again. This is just Susan Harris is a tireless worker for charity. She's got something going in the precinct almost every day, let alone every week. And she supports a large number of charities. But she gets out at 6 o'clock in the morning and takes photographs of Lewis. And they're delightful. And she promised me another batch. I haven't received them yet because I like putting them up. They are a calming influence, but they also show what a delightful, lovely place we live in. As you can see from those pictures, that's calmed me down a little bit. I'm not going to carry the sword, at least not for another 2 minutes.
I'll tell you, you're right, Steve. I'll tell you something. Is seeing, it sounds really, I don't mean it to, but sometimes if I drive to work or to drive home or whatever, or if the sun or the light is in a certain way and you see certain things in the downs or something like that, those pictures there, it does change your levels, And they say that, don't they, mindfulness and stuff and getting your cortisone and stuff like that, you concentrate on something else and it brings your levels down. So in a sort of hippy-dippy, Brighton type way, you're absolutely spot on, I think, because someone was saying on a podcast the other day, actually, about we're so distracted all the time, filling the gaps with a song, put the radio on, put this on, do this, do that, do this, rather than actually, if you just stop for a second and don't have any other distractions and just look around and clock certain things, nature sounds really out there, but it does make you feel, it does change how you feel, doesn't it? You do want to acknowledge, like, sometimes the beauty of nature, it is quite incredible sometimes.
Our router is playing up this morning a little bit, but I agree. I can watch a soppy movie at 9 o'clock at night, and by the time it's finished, as I love everybody, I think it's absolutely wonderful. Then by the time I wake up again at sort of 5 o'clock to get ready for these programs, I'm ready to rip everybody apart again.
Well, you're right, because So you're getting your cortisol, your adrenaline is back on. This is very, tribal, isn't it? Because when we hear the news or what's going on, and then we click into injustice, and then what's going on in our lives, what's going on in the world, and we feel powerless, then you do become more wound up. Where if you don't, in a way, the last couple of days, I'm trying not to listen to the news, because it can make me spiral, So you're right, just as soon as you don't bring that and get your levels up, fight or flight, fight or flight. And so they talk about stuff that's going on in Russia and Albania, and I had a client in yesterday who is Russian, so I was talking to him about it, and it's fascinating actually. So that sort of calmed me down a little bit about it. But so you're right. So if we look at nice things in your immediate surroundings, the levels down, so it's good for the soul,
Yeah. Talking about Russians I like the Russian people. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Russia, and for those people who worry about such things, I helped set up Russia Today television from ground zero, as it were. So I had a lot to do with them, and I've maintained a large number of friends. So the average Russian, I understand. To some extent, I also understand their leaders, who, like ours, are very divorced from the average person. But if all the places that I've actually been to, is the best party goers were the Kosovars. They loved to party. We had more dinners and parties and you name it in Pristina. But the Russians were pretty good too. And we had some very nice times there, although they tended to be on the weekend, the dacha. Friends had a dacha, a country house. And in fact, I've got several photographs of me at these parties, and it brings back the memories of what good times I had in Moscow. So it's a bit like, if I've got anything against Vladimir Putin at the moment, is if he stops me from going to Moscow and meeting my friends, I'm going to be very, very upset.
Yeah. So this is it. This is what's portrayed in the media. This is what McClare was saying yesterday. It's like we only know what we're being told by the media, aren't we? When actually on the ground, so his parents are still in Russia, and he's got friends Ukrainian, and he's working with Ukrainians, and you just think it's funny, isn't it? But the mainstream media likes to project whatever that is. There's always monsters under the bed, isn't there?
Absolutely. Let's turn to something else, because the Daily Mirror has decided on its main front page is it's why I stayed with Wayne. And Colleen Rooney has been involved in handbag bashing with I forgot what her first name is, but with Vardy's wife. But now it appears that good footballer though he was, is Wayne once in a while played away from home. And he's so the Mirror has gone on to that sort of thing. But let me ask you this, because last night, by all accounts, there were 3 Premiership football matches, and those observers who know such things say it's some of the best and most exciting football that they've seen in a long time. And do you think that perhaps sport is bouncing back from lockdown, and that's going to lift our spirits?
I don't know. I thought, like we talk about the whole, they're going to have Partygate and distractions and stuff like that. Why do we need to know about 2 footballers' wives having a row? I'm sorry. There's other things
I didn't mean footballers' wives.
Right?
I agree with you. I mean, I just find that very funny.
Why is it on the
handbags at 60
Mirror?
paces. But exciting football, if it was as exciting as the pundits say it was last night, is how important now is because COVID has changed our customs. So there's no doubt. How important now is sport like football to helping us get out of the doldrums?
Well, it's something else, isn't it? It's a bit of normality. It's getting together. It's shared experiences, isn't it? Which is lockdowns and COVID is all about isolation and distance and fear of being around other people. And that's all about connection, shared experiences, getting your feelings going, raising endorphins. A bit back in the old times, like I've gone to a lot of gigs and a lot of comedy recently. So for me, that's my sport. So having that shared experience in a live environment is just great for me. So it's the same thing, isn't it? So, and it's because so many people are like in the world. Football was on last year, isn't it? And even I watched a couple of matches, and I got quite involved. And I can't stand sport. But I got what people get, it was great. So I think anything that brings us together is good, basically. Apart from, unless you're a footballer for West Ham, obviously. West Ham shouldn't allow that fella to play at all. The RSPCA are involved now, aren't they? They're kicking that cat and disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
But why do West Ham
the payments that these youngsters get is another issue. We can get into that one morning. But what I like about your comments, Andrew, is that you have a wide variety of clients and you talk to a wide variety of people. So in some ways, you're a sort of a bellwether about what people are thinking. And I know, because you've told me, that you have several sort of fairly high-profile footballers who come in, and I just wondered how whether you got that feeling about is the excitement returning?
I haven't seen this week. I haven't seen any of my footballers yet, so I'm not sure what's happening from their point of view. But yeah, you are right. It's a whole mishmash of people and stuff, and generally, people always are saying the same. We're all on the same page, aren't we?
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's. It's now 8:48 for those people who are interested, and it's Thursday, the 10th of February, and my next pension doesn't come in until the 14th. So I'm going to have to buy myself a cheap bottle of whiskey and slump down somewhere in a corner until I get my next payment. No, I'll go to my barber's.
Come here, yeah. I've got Jack Daniels here.
Right, but once again, it is going to drizzle today, we're told, and you can see the clouds beginning to. There's no sunlight, and if they're going to have sunlight, it's going to be about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock this afternoon. The breeze is very gentle, and in fact, my famous trees are not moving at all right now, so there is no breeze, which is, first of all, it means I can wear this hat because it doesn't get blown off my head, but also, of course, the wind makes it feel colder, and it's going from 0 to, I think, about 8 degrees today, which is not warm, because it was up to 12 the other day. So you were talking about mild weather, Andrew, but it's going to be a little chillier today, and going to stay a little chillier, apparently. So that's what it's doing outside. Now, I find it very difficult. The newspapers, particularly, have not come to grips with how to use the internet sensibly so that you can get news off it. So I go for local news. I always take a look at the Sussex Express, at the Argus, and even some of the national papers who claim to cover stuff in Lewes and East Sussex. The trouble is that after I've got past the advertisements for houses and it says news, I recognise that there are 2 or 3 things that are headlined that are about 5 days old, and there is no indication what is the latest news and what's not. But it does seem to me that that there's been some movement on the Brighton and Hove City Council over 1 or 2 things. Have you been keeping an eye on them?
In what regard?
I can't remember exactly because going to the papers online is useless. And I thought it is if there is any tittle tattle in the streets that would tell us what's important in Brighton.
No, I mean it's the same thing. It's the whole of the Lewes Road, the whole student area, and pushing out working people and stuff. Students obviously don't pay any council tax, but Brighton Council seems to be spending a lot of money on students. Meanwhile, the rest of the town falls apart. And look, Takarama. So I don't know what that's about. That seems to be the big thing with Brighton, and that's how it just feels dirty and messy and noisy now. That seems to be the common thread now, that the council doesn't seem to be looking after it. Like if you go to places like Harrogate or York, it's like immaculate, it's beautiful, you know. So that seems to be the basic thing of the residents of Brighton, annoyance with the council. And council tax going up and all that stuff and services.
Yeah. Now, I don't know whether this is a true headline or not, but there's a headline in one newspaper which says, "A homeless woman is battling to find a new home with her dog." Without going into the details of that, but one of the things that has made me angry is that people keep on poncing around about ice cakes and their views on what's happening in Westminster, and then saying, look how marvellous our building programme is. We built 7 new homes, that in fact very little is being done and very little has changed when it comes to the homeless. Or, for that matter, another area that I'm particularly interested in is the mentally stressed, the mentally challenged. And it upsets me that these issues are ignored by local councils. Lewes, and Lewes District Council, by the way, is moving out of Lewes down to Newhaven. And one would think it may well be that the New Haven people would say, "Oh, isn't that great? At long last, we're getting the centre of power down here." But in fact, it's quite the opposite. What they're saying is we really could do with businesses that are actually going to provide employment and so on. We don't want the Jobsworths that are going to do nothing for the economy down here. But basically, there are all these things going on, which to me is navel-gazing, and that nothing is being done about the homeless, or at least no changes to what they've been doing already. And I've suffered that, as you know. So, once again, I'm a journalist speaking from experience, and also the handling of the mentally stressed. And we keep on being told that post-COVID, that we are going to see a lot, particularly younger people, who are going to have mental issues. But apart from yap, 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 flim-flam, I don't see anything being done. And certainly they seem to be shouting the odds about things about which I have no concern whatsoever. So what you're saying about the council in Brighton is the sort of thing that's happening here, and I suspect in many, many councils around the country.
Yeah, why is it that, like the old Hippodrome in Brighton, that was bought up and it's turned into sort of luxury apartments that are like over £1 million. So the only people that can afford these are, I've got a friend who's a postman. I think I've said about this before. So all the names on the post that are all piling up are Russian, Middle Eastern, Chinese. So it's been bought as investments, isn't it? Whereas you think all these big buildings that could be built into, they could be like we have the food banks, the junk food cafes. We could build something that was almost nice hostel, and there's councillors on call, and instead these developers get these buildings, don't they, and make a lot of money out of it. It's just as usual, and it's going to be getting worse because the cost of things is just ridiculous. And I've been wanging on about this for a long time, and all of a sudden now all the customers are now noticing, and it's been on the news and stuff with Chapman Row, that everything's getting more expensive. So where it used to be, people say people on the breadline, people are homeless and stuff, but it's a real thing for people on benefit. It's not. It's everyday folks now, because all our basics have gone up, and the heating, etc., etc. So it's not just that. But it's naive to think, we're all okay, but it's the people who are on benefits and everybody else is going to suffer. It's all of us. Who's got enough savings to cover that with little expensive time, or an income? They're okay, aren't they? But not the normal people, or the self-employed, or, you have loads of different self-employed people, especially down this next of the woods. Barbers, hairdressers, window cleaners, actors, performers, comedians, all that type of stuff. So, whose work has suffered, who are trying to catch up. So it's not just benefits or pensions or low income. It's everybody. So everyone has to suddenly realise that and help out people who are slightly worse than us, and all come together, don't we?
Yeah.
So that's what
a little later today, our colleague Stuart Dolby will be doing his program Energy Matters. And of course, Stuart quite rightly keeps on saying, I keep on reading about what's happening in the energy, and I warned people about this months and months and months ago, which he did. And now, at long last, people are beginning to say it was mistakes that were made in the past that is now creating the energy crisis, not least of which is, and I'm not being political on this, but because we've been subject to green policies, which were unrealistic, it is now somebody's going to have to pay for the fact that we can't reach the targets which were set 5 or 6 years ago, and that's contributing to the high energy costs. And really, nobody seems to want to get to grips with this except wring their hands and say, oh, well, perhaps we won't make the same mistake again. Yeah, give me strength.
I know, but it's like lights on all the time, Japan, all that stuff, regular circuits, There's other things about energy. And meanwhile, on the ground, we're all doing our bit, aren't we? We all do our LED light bulbs, we do our recycling that we've told, And you just...
Andrew, you froze there a little bit.
On private jets.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I appear to be interrupting you. It's just that you've frozen. But it is with you on the show, I must say that it's always a great pleasure and a great joy because the time just goes and it's 8:57, and I should have actually allowed you to get because you're not going to be down at the shop. So if I drop in later on and you've got a lot of disgruntled clients, you can point the finger at me and say it's all his fault.
Yeah, I've got a brand new client first thing, so I've got to be on it.
Right. All right. I'll probably see you later in the day.
Yeah, lovely. Take care.
Thank you, Andrew. Grizzlies. Don't forget Grizzlies. Go to Grizzlies. It's an experience you won't forget. And not only that, but he'll fashion your hair. Look what he's done for me. Toodles.
Adios.
Right. There we go. Andrew Sloan of Grizzlies Barbershop in Lewes, a great guy, but a great place to go to as well. Well, it is 8:58, and once again, just a reminder that it is the 10th of February. It's a Thursday, and the strange thing is, that I sometimes struggle to remember which day it is, but an awful lot of other people do too. So I suppose it's important for us to remind you that it is Thursday, the 10th of February. The weather outside at the moment is not drizzle, but it's going to. According to the forecasters, there is a gentle breeze. At the moment, there is no breeze at all. There's a thin layer of cloud, and we will get a breakthrough somewhere around lunchtime of some sun. Other than that, it is going to be a day in which we can now anticipate that lockdown is going to totally and utterly end. And from a business point of view anyway, from a businessman's point of view, thank goodness for that, because it has been a tough 2 years. And how long it's going to take us all to rebound back, I have no idea. But let's hope that some sort of normality is going to return now. That's it for me, Keith Hayes, in Lewes, East Sussex. And to our international viewers, we're always delighted that you're with us. And I hope that you're either just going to bed or you're getting up at 6 in the morning and having your first cup of coffee. I've run out of milk. I'm going to have to go into town to have my coffee, but I've got to go anyway. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you tomorrow. I'll tell you what, first of all, we just got time. It's 9. Hot buttered toast is a delicacy. We've been so used to putting stuff on our bread and our butter after it's been toasted, we'd forgotten that just a simple butter on toast is just delicious. Till tomorrow, toodle pip.